Ghanaian Times says Bank of Ghana bill passed, and the story is saying that an amendment bill 2016, which seeks to, among other things, place restrictions on the government on government from borrowing from the central bank, is being passed. Now, the purpose, we're told, is to prevent government from excessive borrowing from the Bank of Ghana. So we're told that as a result of that, government can borrow from the bank, or that can only borrow 5%. Previously, it was 10% under BoG Act 2002. It is now 5%. Other issues were also added. We're told also that officials from the Ministry of Finance who were formerly part of the Central Bank's Monetary Planning Committee are no more, and we're told that is to give the bank more room to operate. Honorable Chief Justice, you were there in Parliament, and I'm sure you have a lot about this. So, initially, there were some suggestions that the IMF did not want government, the Bank of Ghana, to finance anything at all from government. So we're talking about zero financing. Nice. Now, from 10%, we're told 5%. Perhaps this is good for us, because it was difficult for a country like Ghana to move on without financing from the Bank of Ghana.
Yeah, thank you very much. I believe that as Parliament, we have done what is right. Because one, we know the economy of anytime there is instability in terms of the economy, it affects the people. And as such, in going through the bill, we also considered sometimes the instability that comes up. Because even as we talk today, our budget, we are not able to wholly finance our budget. We still depend on donor funds. So if we are to say that, no, we should not give government the opportunity at all to be able to access some funds from the central bank, then if we don't take care, we will also shoot ourselves in the foot. We followed so many between rules measures,
right,
that at the end of the day have not inured to the benefit of the people. So in taking, members of parliament were also looking at some unforeseen challenges. So we agreed that no, we shouldn't say zero. At least let's put in the law 5%. At least that is even a half percentage drop from the previous powers that we gave government. And I think what we did yesterday was in the interest of the good people of this country.
Is it a defiance of the IMF?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. You see,
they were asking
let me tell you something. No, let me tell you something. You see, when the IMF or these good institutions bring some policies and so on and so forth, in embarking on the policy, we also need to consider our situation. Because you don't just swallow everything wholly. No. You also look at your environment. What is happening within your environment. And then you tailor whatever you are doing to fit into your environment. And that is exactly what we have done as a parliament. And we did it for the good people of this country.
Right. Let me go to Michael and then see. So, 5%, government can go in and borrow?
So, we had a previous law which took care of the fact that 10% of the annual revenue for the current year, the government could borrow to that ceiling, and to make sure that we don't exceed it, because it would create problems in terms of liquidity. Now, I am very excited, because one of the first things this bill is to check from the 10% to 5% is to prevent an issue which is akin to this government, which is excessive borrowing. And that was said on the floor of Parliament yesterday, to prevent excessive borrowing. We all know that that is one of the hallmarks of this government. they borrow too much. Yes, well, when I say we all know, we who know.
Okay.
That they borrow excessively. I'm surprised you don't know. But every Ghanaian knows that that's their hallmark.
We are three.
100 billion. You know, 100 billion cedis. We know is excessive borrowing. So that in itself is the first thing that it's supposed to cure. Then it also talks about semi-annual reports, which are going to be done in a way that would update. Because you remember recently, in terms of the Monetary Policy Committee, we have been hounding them that we want the details of the fiscal situation of the country, because we want to see how the government is performing midway. If you can come for supplementary budget, you can also give us supplementary annual reports. This is curing that.
Right.
Because we all know that this is a government who had a 12% debt to GDP. Now, after the fiscal discipline, in fact, that was in 2012.
Right.
Then it came to 11%. Okay. Then it came to about 11.6, 11.3. But since the IMF came on board to check the deficit, sorry, that's right, the deficit.
Right.
It came to, can you believe, the next year 6.7.
6.7%.
So that shows that with Keynes and supervision, that can come down. Everybody is worried that this deficit has now grown. And yet the NDC is refusing to give us this, what we call semi-annual report. This bill has cured it. And this is very good news. Then there's also the issue of emergency assistance in terms of finance. And Dr. Baumia has spoken about this a lot. And so we are happy that this has been put in there. Our only worry is that this is to help companies who have liquidity problems but are solvent.
Which is a good idea.
Which is a good idea in its totality. But in its application can be a problem, because you see, one, if you are insolvent, of course, you shouldn't qualify, because that is way beyond rescue.
You've gone beyond rescue.
Yes. But if it's a question of just liquidity, then you can be assisted if you're still solvent. But who should be assisted is where there's a little debate.
You're worried about who takes that decision, or which body takes that decision.
That very much. So it is a two-pronged. One, who takes the decision, and also who does the decision benefit? So, one, who takes the decision is not too much of a problem, because the Bank of Ghana will. But we want to make sure that there are certain things which are put in place that apply. The discretion shouldn't be too wide, because you know our system. If you are not careful, it's applied. The thing which we have proposed, and Dr. Baumia has been very keen on this, is that we should extend the emergency to banks. Because you see, banks have the higher regulatory level instead of the financial institutions like the savings and loans and so on and so forth. So that is where there is a bit of a dichotomy, where we are trying to see that, why don't we look at it in terms of, for the banks, they are bigger, they are more regulated, everything will be more stringent, and we are more likely to get our money back. So this was a divergent point. Of course, the other side, which my brother is part of, said they don't agree. It should be extended to financial institutions, savings and loans, so on and so forth, and all the rest of it. So it was passed because they have the numbers and we don't. But this, in its entirety, is a good bill. I think that the most important thing is us to stick. Because once we stick, that, oh, we have improved in this way or that way. But not when it's time for a semi-annual report, then we see a dragging of feet and absence to give us that kind of information. But other than that, I think that the Bank of Ghana bill is a good bill, and we should be able to even improve upon it in the near future with an amendment.
Let me put this question to Honorable Chief Philosopher Chai, because he is part of the framers of this, or those who approve the law. Michael Quick Jr.'s worry is that the the clause that says that the Bank of Ghana should go ahead and support savings and loans, financial houses, and that can be abused because the Bank of Ghana is in charge, and they would take that decision to support whichever savings and loans or finance house. And politically, he thinks that if Theophilus
That is not
Atachai,
my main crux. There's no, let me make it. The political thing was on the side that we should use that to check the procedure
yes,
on the top.
Okay,
My
all right.
thing with the financial institutions is that they're usually very smaller. Their capitalization is smaller.
Right.
And sometimes the accountability is not as stringent.
Okay.
So it may be different.
you're not worried
If
that
we
they
put
are
it-
owned by political actors?
No, that's not
Okay,
the,
all
not
right.
the issue.
But-
I was talking
but
about
it-
that in reference
okay.
to regulation, not...
Okay, but is that a worry, the fact that these financial services are not properly in terms of their accounting, and so perhaps monies given them could be misused and we cannot recover?
Yeah, prior to the passage of this bill into law, some bills have also been passed into law to regulate
The microfinance
finance
sector.
institutions. So all those processes have been put in place. So the essence of this one is to firm up how the banks, the central bank, is going to now assert its powers on these institutions. So for me,
There's no call for
no,
alarm at all.
no, not
Okay.
at all. It's rather to strengthen their role as a central bank to ensure that other financial institutions play the roles that they are playing in the society very, very well. So that at the end of the day...
for me, finance houses owned by politicians could abuse this system. You don't think so?
Currently, if you look at the new Bank of Ghana Act that has been passed, you realize that government influence has been totally taken off. The Deputy Finance Minister was a member of that board.
Yes.
With the current arrangement, he's no more a member. So you see the Finance Minister and the Deputy Finance Minister are now
out of that committee.
Yeah, just to give the that power to exercise its role, so that the perception of government interference in their activities will be a thing of the past. So now they have been given that independence that all of us wish for.
The head is still appointed by the president.
Well, decisions are not being taken by a single person, because it's a board.
I hasten to add,
Let's wrap up.
you know, as I mentioned, that aspect could be a minute problem. It is something that is also curable in future with an amendment to the bill. Let's see how it operationalizes. But the crux of the matter is that in its entirety, in terms of what the bill seeks to do, it is a fantastic bill. And I think that this is something that we need and we should adhere to, because it will check a lot of people who may otherwise have wanted to always be borrowing excessively. So I think it's a good bill. And yes, as my brother also said, there's no problem.
All right. I'm grateful, gentlemen, for your time this morning. Michael Cook Jr. is a Deputy Communications Director of the NPP. Mike, thanks so much for coming.
Thanks so much, Bright. I enjoyed my second session.
And have a great day.
Have a lovely day too.
And Honorable Theophilus Atachai is a Member of Parliament for Ablekuma Central. And I'm grateful for your time
Yeah,
too.
thank you very
And thanks
much.
so much for coming.